Everybody.
Morning.
I am Patty from the Birdhouse, and I'm going to be walking you through, with the help of my husband Matt, Telescopes 101. Just some of the basics. Seeing these guys can look pretty intimidating, but if you break it down, it's not so bad. So let's get going. Pretty much what you're going to use a telescope for is viewing things deep in the distance in the sky, using mirrors and lenses. Now, one of the most important parts of your telescope is your aperture, and your aperture is the diameter of the lens with the light coming in. The larger your aperture, the more light it's going to collect, the more details you're going to see, the brighter, the sharper the image. Focal length, usually the distance given in millimeters between a telescope's primary lens or mirror and the point of where the rays come together. So here is your aperture and your mirror or your lens, and your focal length is that distance to where the image comes in and goes through your eyepiece to your eye. Both your telescope and your eyepiece have a focal length. Don't worry too much about that at the moment. Notice one big thing about this picture is the tree over here. As you can see it, when it comes to your eye, it's upside down. So let's go to the next slide. Oop. That was not the slide I expected.
Oh, no, the slide,
The slide.
that's the slide after.
We'll get to the slide afterwards. Okay. Magnification's what helps you see smaller objects larger. To figure out the magnification of your telescope, it's the focal length of your telescope divided by the focal length of your eyepiece. Say you've got a 650 millimeter telescope and you're using a 25 millimeter eyepiece. It's going to give you a magnification of 26x.
So the higher magnification is the better you see smaller objects?
Yes.
Yep, it will
Yes.
make those objects larger in your field of view. So, maybe one thing we should have explained, because maybe not everybody knows. So the eyepieces on a telescope, a lot of these will come with two different sizes. So this happens to be a 25 millimeter, but it also comes with a 10 millimeter. And when you're first setting up your telescope, what you want to do is use the lowest magnification possible, because that'll let you see a larger field of view in the sky. So say you're trying to find a star or even a planet. You want to start with the highest number, because that gives you the lowest magnification, but the
biggest
wider field of view. And then once you've found the object with the telescope, you just take it out like I just did. There's a little set screw that helps lock them into place. Then you would switch to your smaller focal length eyepiece with higher magnification. And then it's more like looking through a narrower soda straw, so to speak. You've got the narrower field of view, but you'll see things bigger. And then, so like that, the first set of numbers is for the StarSense Explorer 130, the scope right here. The 900, I think, was for this one.
This one.
Just to give you an idea. And I think both of those come with the 25 and 10 millimeter. And then there are also additional eyepieces that you can buy with different focal lengths as well. If you want to go to higher magnifications, you can do that.
And better optics as well. Okay,
Now
back to this is what I thought we were going to go to. Why is that image upside down, that tree? So when you're looking at that tree from here, like you're doing in a regular spotting scope or a pair of binoculars, you see the tree and it's right side up. In a telescope, you're going to see it. The image is actually upside down. It doesn't matter when you're looking at the sky if it's upside down. Your brain's not going to flip it. You can So if you're trying to use this as a regular spotting scope, say you want to go look at a ship that's a mile offshore, you can do that with the refractors, the Schmidt-Cassegrains, but you can't do it with a reflector. I'll get into a little bit more of the types later on. But there's a piece that you can add that will flip the image back around on these guys. You can't on this guy because it's a little, with the eyepiece coming off the side, it won't fully rotate it. It still will be skewed. That's a little bit.
So when you're looking at stuff in space, it really doesn't matter if it's upside down. You know, if you're looking at Saturn, you don't carry, you really don't have a sense of if it's right side up or right side down, right? You know, if you're looking at a cardinal, for example, you do know which is the right side up, and so that's why you would maybe want to use the image erector if you wanted to use that as a spotting scope. The reason they don't normally put the image erector into the telescope packages is because when you're looking at stuff in space, they're very dim, right? So any additional optic or mirror that they put in here, lenses, absorbs just a little bit of light, and it decreases the amount of light that actually reaches your eye. So they only put in what's really necessary in the telescope to give you the best image quality.
Now we're going to get into a little bit of the types of telescopes. You've got your refractor, your reflector, and your compound. Your refractor is pretty much a straight out of the box, straight shoot. There's no mirrors in it. It's all glass. It's all optics going through. That's your refractor. This is also a refractor as well. Nothing blocks the light passing through the telescope. It does, like I said, that you can take it right out of the box and use it. It requires the least amount of maintenance. There's no colonization as you would with mirrors. And it's a great point shoot. Okay, reflecting telescopes uses mirrors to form that image. This is a reflecting telescope. Light is going to come through the front, hit a mirror in the back, come to a mirror in the middle, and up the eyepiece. This is another reason why if you put an erector, you really can't get the image because it's bouncing different ways.
Yeah, it's because the eyepiece comes out of the tube at an angle. I don't know if everybody can see that pretty clearly, but you know, it's not you're not looking at it either straight on or at a 90-degree angle. So it's kind of a 45-degree angle. And if you look at something, I've tried this. If you look at something on the ground during the day, it's kind of odd at first because it actually looks like it's partly rotated. And the reason for that is because of the orientation of the eyepiece. With the refractor, you're looking just straight through, and so up is either up or upside down, but it's not rotated in between like the refractor is.
These are commonly referred to as Newtonian telescopes because Sir Isaac Newton created the first working reflecting telescopes. So you'll hear that interchangeably. People call it a Newtonian or they'll call it a reflector. Think of it as you're looking at your reflection in a mirror. And that's how you can say, okay, the reflector has mirrors in it. A nice thing, a plus to the reflectors or the Newtonians is they don't have any chromatic aberrations like you will get on a refractor.
What's that?
That is coloring on the outside edges. So you'll get a little anomalies on that outside edges. So you get a lot less with this than you will
Oh, yeah,
with
well,
this.
you don't get any.
You don't get any
reflector.
with the reflector.
But basically what it is as light passes through glass and it gets refracted, different wavelengths get refracted slightly differently than others. So if you look at an object that's really far away, you'll see just like a little bit of a color fringe around it, kind of a halo. They're usually not too bad. The lenses have gotten a lot better over the years, and they've made the lens systems so that it kind of corrects for that sometimes, but you still get a little bit of that with the refractor, but you won't get that with the reflector.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Just because the secondary mirror placement back here obstructs some of the light entering the telescope. Oh, actually, the secondary mirror is right here by the
yes, that one,
eyepiece.
right.
So the light's coming
Oh,
in,
yeah.
it has to go
You can go
through.
back to,
Yeah,
afterwards, we can take the cap off, because if you look in the front of the telescope, you can actually see where the secondary mirror is, but it's actually sitting in your field of view. So your field of view is like about like that, and in the middle of that, there's actually a blockage. You don't see it when you're looking through the telescope because it's so close to your eye relative to the things that are thousands of light years away that you're looking at. So it just gets blurred out. It's not in focus, but it does block some of the light that comes in. And it has a little bit of an effect. It's not too bad, but depending on what you're viewing, it can be work.
the other neat thing to know is reflecting telescopes with mirrors may need to occasionally have that mirrors aligned. It's called collimization. It's not too horrible.
Combination.
Collimation, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah.
Always wanna add a
All
Z in
the
there.
scopes from Celestron come out of the box pre-collimated, so you don't have to mess around with it. Usually, unless you've actually dropped the telescope, you probably don't have to realign things. But what it is, there's adjustment screws here for the secondary mirror, and then in the back here, I'll kind of swing that around. These screws back here let you adjust the positioning of the primary mirror, and it's like pretty much what you're trying to do is get the two mirrors lined up relative to each other so that everything's kind of aligned. So if you've ever tried to look at the back of your head using two mirrors, so you got one in front of you here, and then you got a mirror behind you. That's kind of, I don't want to say it's analogous to collimation, but it's kind of the same kind of thing. You're trying to get that alignment so that you can see things properly. The other thing I don't think you mentioned was the other thing that's good about. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, so as you get into larger size telescopes, it's a lot cheaper to make a good mirror than it is to make a really good lens as they get larger. So as the telescope sizes increase, you'll find more of the telescopes tend to be reflectors than refractors. It's just
It's the cost of that glass eyepiece. Once it starts getting large, the price just skyrockets.
The other benefit too is you get a longer focal length in a refracting telescope. So that focal length here it's not only just this distance, but it's also back all the way to the secondary mirror that sits kind of right around here where the eyepiece is. In this telescope here, it's just the length of the tube, and so that helps to make it a longer focal length telescope, but in a smaller package. So, for example, let's see. So that one. Let me go back to the previous slide here because these were the numbers. So this scope here is 650 millimeters. Well, actually, this is a bad example because this one's actually longer. But as you get to larger focal lengths, this tube would just become unwieldy at some point. Whereas you can kind of get the folded light path in the refractor.
Compound telescopes. This is where it gets fun.
Mhm.
That's what this guy is over here. They reflect and they refract light. They're kind of a hybrid. Their benefit is they're very compact. You get a lot of bang for your buck. They've got a corrector plate, which helps with that aberration of the mirror. We call them compound because they've got Schmidt Cassegrain and Mestufov
Maxitov.
Cassegrains as well. This is where your light comes in just like it does on the reflector, bounces off, and comes back in. So you get more focal length in a shorter amount of room.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if you remember, I said this one had a focal length of 900 millimeters. This one here has a focal length of 1500 millimeters. So it's quite a bit longer focal length, which helps you with your magnification in a much smaller package.
Do you have to adjust the lenses on that one? Do they ever get out of?
There is, yeah, I think there is a collimation process for the Cassegrain telescopes. I want to say it's a little bit more complicated than doing a standard refractor, but I'm not familiar with it personally. What I do know is that they need to be adjusted far less frequently. So that would really only need to be adjusted if you had an accident with it and dropped it.
Thank you.
If anybody's got questions as we go along, please let us know.
Viewing the sun. You can definitely view the sun with your telescopes, but only using an appropriate ISO certified solar filter. Don't ever look at the sun with your naked eye. I think everybody knows that. You can get permanent eye damage, or with your optics without the proper gear. Never use your optic to project an image of the sun onto any surface because the internal components in here could heat up and damage it. Probably some of the most important advice is never leave your telescopes and your optics unsupervised because kids don't know any different and they might just, if you don't have your solar filter on and look through it.
So for example, you could be using your telescope as a spotting scope during the day, right? And you've got it out and a little kid comes along and doesn't know any better and says, oh, I want to just point this around at anything. If they accidentally look at the sun, that can be really damaging. So you got to be a little bit more careful with those.
Yeah.
It's because of the higher magnifications. We saw, we attended a presentation and somebody actually showed it was the lens cap from their telescope. They had it out during the day, and I forget what he was doing. He was actually just kind of readjusting it, and he accidentally had it lined up with the sun, and there was this neat little pinhole burned through the end of the lens cap. It was just plastic, but it actually burned a hole in the plastic just from that really brief encounter. So you definitely don't want to take a chance doing that with your eyes. The other thing you want to do if you're using this for daytime solar viewing is to take the finder scope off. This one, I'm trying to remember. I don't think this one's not actually magnified, but some telescopes, they actually have a finder scope that provides some amount of magnification for you to try to guide your telescope to what you're looking at. And people just recommend you take these off because if you have the solar filter on, it's going to be here at the end, but it's not going to cover the opening for the finder scope. And these usually just come off with a couple of thumbs. There's like a little thumb screw. It just slides right off. It's not too difficult. If you ever see these little, I like this picture and I don't like this picture because it makes it look like you can't use the telescope to view the sun. It's meant to be there as a warning. But if you've got the right solar filter, you actually can use it for solar viewing. Okay, we've actually got a picture of one of the solar filters here. So you'll notice, I got the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll notice, so I think I did it. Okay. You'll notice this is actually the only part that's a filter. The rest of it is just like the standard lens tab that comes with the telescope. And the reason you can get away with just having a much smaller aperture for viewing the sun is because the sun is so much brighter. Plus, this filter material is it's not really expensive, but it's not cheap either. So having a smaller area to cover is beneficial from that standpoint too. But because the sun is so much brighter than stars that you're looking at, you can get away with viewing it through a much smaller aperture. That's about all I had to say on that.
And they're pretty easy. The StarSense DX has one that you can buy. That's actually the film on it. The refractor does as well. Celestron has also come out with a universal. It's basically cardboard with this film, and it mounts to anything from 75 millimeters to 100 millimeters. So it will go on DSLRs and as well as other.
Oh yeah, different size telescopes. It's hard for them to make this type of a thing for every possible size telescope. So they have kind of a generic one that just puts it on with I think it's got some Velcro tabs or something.
This one goes on with Velcro tabs. The universal goes on. It has Velcro and a rubber band that just keeps it all intact.
So what'd you say that little one was?
This one?
Yeah, what type is that?
That is a reflector.
Yep, this is also a reflector. So it's basically just a much scaled down version of the Explorer that we have over here.
It's actually one of
Very much the same
Celestron's most popular because it's great for camping and it's
So
really portable.
this is just you grab it, you go. You can just this is where the light comes in. That's taped on, so I won't try to take it off. And then you just look through the eyepiece right off the side. But it's neat because you can just set it up on a table. If you got a fairly sturdy table, and you just set it down, and it rotates and tilts just like that telescope. And it's neat. You can get really great views of the moon or other things that are fairly bright in the sky. And it can be fun, but its portability is the main draw for this. It's fairly inexpensive too. So if you've got kids that are interested in looking at things, this is probably a nice way to get started.
And the universal mount will fit on that
Oh yeah.
as well. And I think it's only gonna be like $20.
I have some mounts.
Mounts. There's different kinds of mounts for your telescopes. You get your alt azimuths, which is your left, right.
Oh yeah. Oops.
Oops,
Yeah. Yes, this one.
it's that one. And up and down.
Yep. So the up down is altitude, and the azimuth is the left, right. So these are usually called alt azimuth mounts. But it's pretty much like your standard camera tripod, the same type of motion.
Dobsonian is pretty much the same thing, only used for larger telescopes. You'll see them a lot more in the reflectors. It's pretty much the same thing,
Oh yeah.
left, right, up and down.
Yeah, especially the larger reflectors. So as you start getting up into 8 and 10 inch, 8, 10, 12 inch diameter apertures, the tubes can be quite a bit longer, and so you wouldn't be able to mount that easily on this style of a tripod. The Dobsonian, the pivot point is much lower, and
It's pretty much
And
like
remember,
a lazy
it's-
Susan.
since it's a reflector, so this is wish they made the tube longer on this, but your eyepiece will still be up around here, up the top. So it's the eyepiece is at a comfortable standing height. If you had that kind of a telescope or this kind of mount, but for a refractor, it wouldn't work because you basically have to be down on the ground in order to view.
Now, your larger telescopes, your 12-inch apertures and 16, your eyepiece is way up. They have ladders. and you climb up ladders to look at the eyepiece, and it's a lot of, actually, it's a lot of fun.
Sedona did that.
Yep, we actually have the Rochester Academy of Sciences,
You got
Yes.
the astronomy section. They've got a viewing area down in Ionia. It's kind of what they call a dark site, but it's where it's in an area of town where there's less light pollution. And they've got several telescopes, and they've got some really large Dobsonians. But they've got the library ladder, and you've got to climb up the stairs and look through the eyepiece.
and that's a lot of fun too. The other type is the
Equatorial.
equatorial, you got the, is equatorial mount.
Oh,
You'll see that there's a weight on we don't have any equatorial mounts here. There's a weight on the bottom of it. And basically how that one works is it goes with the curvature of the earth. So it can track the sky as the sky is moving. So that's the power in an equatorial mount.
Yeah. So it requires you to align, usually they're aligned to the star Polaris, which is the North Star. That one doesn't really move at all in the night sky. And so if you get the mount aligned, and then you find an object in the sky that you want to observe, especially good for like if you're going to do photography for longer exposures, you can track that object as the Earth is rotating and the sky moves by simply rotating just one axis on the telescope. So, for example, or as a counterexample, with this style mount, if you're looking at something and then you want to keep trying to follow that, you have to move both in the altitude and in the azimuth directions in order to try and track that. It's not hard per se, but it's easier, especially if you're going to use a motorized mechanism to do the tracking for you. The polar mounts are better for that because they just have to move in one direction on one axis. So only one axis has to be motorized for that to track. Anybody have any questions on that for me? Go on. It's the thing with the polars. I wouldn't say it's difficult, but there is some amount of setup that you have to do. I think even with the next star,
Right.
there's
that
some
tracks as
kind of
well.
alignment process that you need to go through. Let's go down to the next one. Oops. Oh, I clicked away from it. Oh yeah.
Push to. Push to telescopes are just what Matt was saying, that you have to push it to see the objects you want to see. Go to, like what you see with the next star 6SE down there, is you program in a point once you have it set, and it automatically goes to where you want it to go, and then it will track it. This, like Matt said before, is you've got your object, your star in your viewer, but the sky is always moving except for Polaris. So you do have to push to continue to see it.
Oh, don't forget about the StarSense app.
The StarSense app, Celestron came out with this really cool StarSense app that goes on with this 2 StarSense Explorer series that goes with your phone. You click your phone onto it. It has a mirror. You jump your phone onto it. You click on an app. And it will help you align up.
Okay. Yeah, so this will help you find different things. The thing I really like about this is like once you've gone through the setup, which doesn't take too long, if you go to this one point, so it knows your location, it knows what time it is. This is just in demo mode right now because obviously there's nothing to look at in the sky. But it gives you actually a quick list of maybe 10 or 15 different things that are visible in tonight's sky that you can look at. And so, like say Saturn, for example, you click on Saturn, it gives you a bunch of information. There's some pictures and different observing tips for the object. And then you can click on locate, and it gives you these arrows. So the arrows that's kind of the push to. It gives you guidance which direction you need to move the telescope in order to see that. So
I wish there was one that,
if people want to come up afterwards, we can show you this a
how.
little bit more hands-on. There's also a brief video. But it's up to you to actually move the telescope around. The NexStar series, once you push it in, it will literally pan and tilt to the right spot in the sky, and
as well as track it.
and it will track it as well, yeah. Which is really good if you're doing any kind of photography, or you've got several family members, everybody wants to get a chance to look at the same thing. You don't have to keep trying to realign the telescope over a period of say 5 or 10 minutes.
So those particular types you just mentioned, they have like a motor that moves it?
Yes, yep.
And they also have adapters for certain, for Nikon and Canon cameras that can go right on it. So you can do photography.
Yeah, those that line. I think it comes with both a wall plug, and say if you're in your backyard, or if you're in the middle of the forest, they sell battery packs that will power that scope for I'm not sure how many hours, but they'll last several hours. It doesn't take a lot of power to run it.
It's amazing.
And
Yeah.
also at the in Ionia, they have what they call pads, concrete pads with electric on each pads all around, so you can bring your own telescope. You've got power there, and so you can view the night sky. And it's a
There-
beautiful bowl where you park down below and you're up on a hill. So the sky is amazing there.
Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, next there were a couple of, and this will be a little bit of a rehash of what we just talked about.
Ready for
Couple
a
short
short
videos.
telescope experience? Unlock the power of your smartphone to help you navigate the night sky. Introducing StarSense Explorer by Celestron. It's fast, easy, and accurate. In minutes, you're ready to take a guided tour of the universe. First, dock your smartphone, then launch the StarSense Explorer app. Unlike other astronomy apps, StarSense Explorer aligns precisely with your telescope and uses sky recognition technology to pinpoint its exact position in the night sky. Follow the simple instructions, and in seconds, the app generates a list of all the best objects currently visible in the night sky. Select an object from the list and follow the on-screen arrows to the desired object. As you move the telescope, StarSense Explorer recalibrates its position in real time. The bullseye turns green when your object is ready to view in the eyepiece. It's that simple. StarSense Explorer works anywhere in the world, no cell signal required. So whether you're in your backyard or in a remote dark sky location, the universe is yours to explore.
I should say that.
How does that work?
Well, so the thing is, because I mentioned no cell signal required,
Yes.
it's really not. So the way it works, you download the app to your cell phone, but it's got the entire database of information that it needs is downloaded to your phone. So after you've got the download done, you can be in the middle of the forest, no cell signal, no Wi-Fi or anything, and still use this, which is nice. You know, there's so many things nowadays. You need to be connected to the internet to use the app and things like that. You don't have to do that with this.
So I assume it picks up satellite signals because it has to know where it
It's
is.
GPS.
Well, it's GPS, yeah. Yeah, you have to have your location services turned on the phone, but you can reach that basically anywhere. I mean, unless you're in a cave underground, but then you probably wouldn't be using a telescope, so. Oh yeah, so there's, let's see, that one. Next one.
Ready for a new kind of telescope experience? Unlock the power of your smartphone to help you
Oh, I'm
navigate
sorry.
the night sky. Introducing
Deja vu. Oops.
Ready for a telescope experience? Unlock the power.
That's the one we want to be on, okay.
What makes Nexstar SE a favorite among serious observers and newcomers alike? It all starts with our signature orange tube, Schmidt Cassegrain, and Maxutov Cassegrain optics. Available in 4, 5, 6, and 8-inch apertures. We've added our proprietary StarBright XLT optical coating to enhance light transmission, making your images brighter and more detailed. We know the best telescope is the one you will use most often. That's why Nexstar SE breaks down into several lightweight pieces. It's the perfect choice for camping and sets up quickly in your backyard. If you're new to astronomy, you can begin enjoying the night sky right away with Nexstar SE. The computerized hand control guides you through our simple skyline procedure, then automatically generates a sky tour of all the best objects to view. Choose from thousands of objects in Nexstar SE's database. Then, the computerized fork-arm mount accurately points your telescope, centers your object perfectly in the eyepiece, and tracks it as it moves across the sky. You can even get started in astroimaging with your Nexstar SE. Just attach any Celestron planetary camera or your DSLR. The 4 and 5-inch models also include a wedge for long exposure photography.
Hopefully you'll look through the eyepiece a little bit longer than the guy in the video did.
Yeah.
I watched that video a couple of times and he's like, it goes, and he goes, oop, and then it's on to the next thing. Like, you gotta be kidding me. I guess they want to keep the video quick. Oh, really? No. That's,
Okay, just like what they just said in the video. Which telescope should you choose? The best one for you is the one you're going to actually use. It's not gonna do any good for you being home in the box. Choose the type of objects you're interested in. Think about your design, your portability. There's a lot more to go along with it than just, oh, I like that one.
you also want to be conscious of the fact that a lot of the manufacturers kind of play games with the numbers. Car manufacturers do. I mean, it's everything. Televisions, it's another big one. So this many pixels or whatever. It's this resolution. The magnification for the telescope, the maximum magnification, is not the only number that you should be looking at and say, oh, this one does 200x, but this one does 400x. So this must be a better telescope if it does a higher magnification. That's really only a very small part of the equation when you're trying to choose a telescope. You want to think about the types of things that you want to look at. For example, if you're interested in looking at sunspots, you don't need a huge aperture telescope to look at sunspots. Actually, this smaller scope here has got a small aperture. That one's probably a better scope if you just want to look at the sun than say the Explorer or the Nexstar here, because you don't need a big aperture to get a good view of the sun. And that's a nice scope because it's what they call a grab and go. It's so small, you can just pick it right up and go with it. But if you want to look at, say planets, smaller aperture is going to be a problem. If you're looking at dimmer objects, different nebula and things like that, you want to go with a larger aperture. So you've got to kind of take all those things into account.
Anybody have any?
Was that it? I think that was the end of it. Yeah.
Are those all Celestron? All of
Yes.
Yes, these are all Celestron.
those?
Yeah.
Why does Birdhouse prefer Celestrons to Windows?
It's a name I was familiar with. Plus, we kind of want to align ourselves with the Rochester Museum and Science Center for the solar eclipse. We are one of the stakeholders. They've actually been giving out this exact telescope, so we kind of wanted to keep it along the same playing field.
Yeah, Celestron's a name that's been around for a long time. They're one of the major telescope manufacturers. There's also Meade is another name that people have probably heard. But we like the Celestron line. They've got a good variety of different scopes available, and they also make really good binoculars as well for birding too. So it kind of makes sense to just kind of keep everything, in the same same manufacturer.
Are they made in the US?
I do not know that.
Not sure.
I actually don't know that.
I'll find out. How about is there warranties on any of these?
I'm actually not 100% sure on that. This is actually made in China. I can see it because it's right here. And I can find out what the warranty is.
Yeah.
So Celestron is based in Torrance, California. But yeah, like a lot of companies that, their design and sales are based in the United States, but things are manufactured overseas.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, if anybody wants to come up and try hands-on, feel free. We can turn the lights on and play.
So for the next stars, 6-inch and 8-inch.
Okay, so it looks like the warranty for Celestrons is 2 years.
Thank you.
Yep, sure. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So for the next
You wanna bring
stars,
it in?
the 6-inch and
Yeah.
8-inch, do they have the same focal length or the same tube and just a bigger aperture, which then would be
no,
letting in
I
the lights?
think
I mean, it's-
they're longer tubes as well. So
Let's,
they're
let's
not-
take a peek at it, bring it on in.
I'd have to look that up, to be honest.